do ice, salt, and Easter eggs all have in common? Well, they're all simple household items that can transform into some pretty neat science experiments.
Mary Porter Green, founder and president of Curiosity Zone, here to show us some cool activities that are kid-friendly and easy for you to do at home. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys. So we're doing this transition from winter to spring, right? So I said, what can I do that has ice but also something cheerful for spring?
Right.
We're all ready for it to be warm and springy. So I decided to do a whole thing on crystals. All right, because that's what ice is, and I'm sure you guys already know that ice is
crystals.
Just
we knew that, right?
Solid version of water. Do you guys know, and I'm sure you know this too, why it is that we spray why we spray water or brine on the roads when it's supposed to be icy or cold?
Keeps them from freezing.
Exactly. And do you know why though? What's happening?
No, you have to explain that part.
So that's the fun part. That's what we do at Curiosity Zone. We explain the everyday stuff, right? So you can explain it to your kids as you're driving along, right? So there's all this white stuff on the road. The reason is when ice hits salt, chemical reaction, okay? And what it does is change the freezing point of the water, right? So it's chemically altering the liquid, right? And making it, or the solid in that case, and making it so that it has to be much, much colder to freeze, okay? So you can show this to your kids by making a big giant block of ice in your freezer. Just take a Tupperware, that's all I did. Freeze a bunch of water in it overnight. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take salt. Now I use kosher salt.
Does it have to be kosher or whatever kind?
You can use anything you want. And we're going to sprinkle it. Take this and just sprinkle it on the top, okay? Now we're going to come back to this in a few minutes. But what this is going to do is this is going to start to melt the top, and it's going to make cracks and crevices in your ice. And then your kids can come back and add either food coloring, or they could use paint droppers and whatnot, and drop, and you'll see in a minute, when they drop color on it, the color goes all down through the cracks, and it looks like this really cool, colorful.
Cool.
So it's kind of like art and science and ice and sculptures all smushed into one, okay? So we're going to come back to this in a second, okay?
Where does the beer glass come in with the children, Mary?
Right, and see, the sad thing is I've got oil and a beer glass, right? Darn.
What are we doing?
Darn, darn, darn. Okay, so here we're going to talk about why it is that ice floats.
Okay.
That's kind of a weird thing, right? Because most of the time when you have the solid version of something, it will sink through the liquid. It usually is more dense, right? Ice,
I've never thought about that, but you're right. Why does ice float?
See,
you
science
think it should go to the
all the time, right? Why does ice float? Because it's this weird property of water that when it freezes, it gets less dense. Who knew? Now you know, right? Now you can impress your kids, and your kids can impress their friends.
Smart. So other substances that are frozen are more dense?
Typically, yes.
Wow.
Water's an exception to a rule. So here's this really cool experiment that I found online that is so much fun to watch. Okay, so what we're going to do is first we're going to put a little bit of food coloring in the bottom of a tall glass. Okay. Now we're going to add baby oil, which will not combine because it's oil and it's more dense than the...
So how much are you dropping in there?
I don't know.
However,
it looks like a lava lamp.
It looks kind of like a lava lamp, right? It's really cool. And then we're going to slip some...
What's an oil?
Thank you.
Vegetable oil.
Sorry, you guys. I was up late last night. I have this foster dog at home, and she was barking all night long.
Oh, no worries.
So I'm a little sleep deprived. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to put this in. Now this is even less dense than the baby oil. So this is going to float on top, kind of like salad dressing. So this by itself is a cool thing to show your kids
how the density of different
things
liquids,
don't combine, right? Okay. So we'll give that a second to settle out. But once it settles out, let's hope it settles out quickly. Otherwise, we'll move to our next thing. What we're going to do is put an ice cube in there, and the ice cube is going to be suspended between the two liquids because the ice is going to be. Let's see if I got it right. The ice is less dense. There it goes. The ice is
look at that.
Less dense than the one, but more dense than
it's
more
magic,
dense than all oil.
everybody.
It's less dense than all. But here's why it's fun. This ice cube is going to start to melt. All right, and as it starts to melt and it goes from being a solid to a liquid, the liquid is going to drop to the bottom because the liquid form is more dense than the baby oil. See, do you see the blob?
Oh, yeah, here comes the drop.
And it'll go to the bottom, and it will start to combine with the food coloring. Your kid can sit here and watch this all day.
This is better than television.
And at the same time, it does look like beer.
Yes, it does. It makes you want to drink it. Yeah, you're ready to celebrate. I can tell. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is, since we're talking about crystals, do you guys know what a crystal is?
What is a crystal?
I mean, it's a solid, right? It's, for example, ice crystals are the solid version of water. Okay, So salt is also a crystal, and a crystal is essentially something that has a regularly repeating, like a pattern to its molecular structure, okay? So for example, ice that you've seen the lacy patterns of snowflakes, we've all seen that in school. Okay, salt, square, and sugars have pointy ends, so they all have their own little patterns, right? But whether you're talking about an Epsom salt, kosher salt, table salt, they're all going to be squares, and if you look at them under magnifying glass, that's really cool. So,
Hence the magnifying glass.
so what you can do though is grow your own crystals, and a fun thing to do around the time of Easter is to grow these really cool crystals in your Easter egg shells. So what you're going to do is you go ahead and color your eggs however you want to color them. You're going to, first of all, you're going to crack an egg, empty it, clean it, and take the eggshell. Color it however you want. All I did was use food coloring, and I did the tie-dye Easter egg thing that we did actually on air 2 years ago. So if you go to our website, you can see how to do that. And then all you're going to do is make a super saturated solution, awesome word for kids, and basically you're taking really, really, really hot water, if you excuse me.
What do you see in there, Tosh?
That's just pretty cool.
Do they look square?
Look at all the like
Do they look
dimensions.
square? Oh, yeah.
Aren't they cool?
It is cool.
So you
It is
take
pretty cool.
super, super, super hot water, almost boiling, and about a quarter cup of the water, and then about a quarter cup of Epsom salts will make these really cool long crystals. That's what I've got here. And
It's like kryptonite over there.
it is, exactly. It's like that Superman thing.
Right.
That one scene. Anyway, you're going to take this, and the key to this whole experiment is to keep stirring the salts in until you seriously can't get in. You're like squeezing salts into the liquid, okay? If you don't get enough salt in there, it's not going to work. And you have to stir and stir and stir and stir. Make sure your water's really, really hot. But use a quarter cup of water and a quarter cup of your salt, and it should turn out fine. This will eventually all dissolve. If the water was hotter, it would dissolve more quickly.
Pour that into your Easter eggs, and then let it dry, and then the crystals form.
Exactly.
Okay.
Put them in the fridge for about 3 hours.
We're running out of
Bam,
time.
there are your
Tell us
crystals.
about
Okay,
the
so
salt
here,
crystals
here.
before we go.
Here. We're going to just take your...
Oh,
Take
Time
your
is
coloring.
running out.
Okay, so this shows that the crystals have formed
So
by
you can
coloring
see
them.
see how the ice has melted all these little crevasses into the ice, and your kids can make art projects.
Yeah,
this
so
is
neat.
cool.
Mary Porter Green, thanks for stopping by. Curiosity Zone, check her out. We'll be right back after this break.
Great experiment.
I love that.